Welcome in, everybody, to the CyHawk postgame instant reaction podcast. I'm Andrew Barber here with my co-host Drew Shipley. We are sponsored by Rivelton Distillery and Kyle Lehman at Wintrust Mortgage. Huge thank you to our sponsors. And man, Drew, does it feel good to be bringing that CyHawk trophy back to Iowa City, just right where it belongs. Close one, but man, does it feel good. Give me your initial reaction to Kirk Ferentz's 200th win as a head coach, uh, and it being the Cyhawk win, and just your general overall thoughts on today's game.
My blood pressure is still coming down, Andrew. Again, just like last week, at the end of the day, want to know this week. Got it done, bringing the CyHawk trophy back to Iowa City. What happened was exactly what I thought would happen in our episode on Thursday night, with the first 15 plays scripted were phenomenal. 150 yards. There was a stat that they showed there on TV. 150 yards in the first 15 plays, -2 at one point there in the second quarter. So again, it's clear that the offense in real time, Brian Ferentz can't call an offense. There were missed opportunities, like you said before we went live here. Missed opportunities to Seth Anderson, some overthrown, underthrown balls. The pick six was phenomenal. Won't see an easier pick six all season long. At the end of the day, 2-0 on the season, heading home, playing Western Michigan, who got thumped by Syracuse, by the way, today. So should not have any qualms or worries about going back to Iowa City to be 3-0. That's my initial reaction.
Yeah, I'm with you there. When you get off the script, it gets a little bit iffy, shall we say. We're able to muster together a nice drive, I thought, in the third quarter to tack on that field goal to go up 20-3. That was a decent drive, but other than that, it was really, really bad and really predictable stuff. But you got to give credit to the Iowa State defense. That may be a top 10 unit, if we're being honest. And that defense alone is going to be what keeps Iowa State in ball games this year. Where the offense might struggle a little bit, that defense is going to keep them in ball games. It's a lot like the 2022 Iowa Hawkeyes in a lot of ways, to be quite honest.
Yeah. Do we have a new RB1? Especially in between the tackles?
I'm glad you brought that up, because this was the huge Jazz Patterson game. Yeah, he was absolutely phenomenal. I know it wasn't Caleb Johnson's best day, but Jazz looked like he was just shot out of a cannon. But even bigger than the running game was a couple of the pass blocks that he made. I'm thinking of the one play that he made on a third down where Cade was able to get a long completion on a third down that eventually led to a field goal, I believe, maybe even a touchdown drive. But he blocked two defenders by going low.
Yeah.
He took 100%. Both the two defenders out, and if he doesn't do that, Cade is getting sacked. Or at very least, incomplete pass because he gets rocked.
And honestly, Andrew, another thing that I kind of noticed was, Iowa State's special teams reared its ugly head again. Iowa dominated the special teams, especially the punt coverage. Did Iowa State have positive yardage in punt returns today? I have no idea. I don't think so.
Maybe, but it wasn't much. It was probably less than 10.
Yeah.
Maybe. And then, the blocked field goal to begin the game, that was huge because Iowa State, again, on their scripted plays, a lot like Iowa, looked good on their scripted plays, but they used them all up basically in one drive. And then they put together a little something in the second half while trying to make a late comeback, but it just wasn't quite enough. But that blocked field goal was just absolutely huge for momentum, because then Iowa, I believe, took it down and scored after the 59-yard run by Jazz. They had to settle for a field goal right away to go up 3-0. But again, they were up 10-0, and it felt like that. And then you kind of, Cade McNamara throws an interception, and it was fine because the officials didn't call DPI pretty much either way all day today.
Yeah.
They just decided that DPI was just okay today.
and
So
and OPI too at that late touchdown.
yeah, they just decided that hand fighting and pass interference both ways was just a-okay today. But Cade throws that interception, then Rocco Beck comes back and telegraphs one. Castro takes it for pick six. Felt like the Hawks were going to throw up 30 plus, kind of roll, and then they kind of turtle up and don't really do much outside of that one drive in the second half for 3 points. They're able to hold on, but it comes down to a stop on 4th and 1 and Ethan Herquette getting through the line of scrimmage and just completely blowing a play up. And that's essentially what Cooper DeJean broke up a couple passes. I was impressed with the secondary.
Should have had a pick if Xavier Wampa wasn't in also great position as well, hitting it
Yeah.
off the helmet. But
Yeah.
it's
So,
I don't know. The defense played great again. No qualms about the defense.
yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. We're -6 on the Brian Ferentz-o-meter. Drive to 325 now. But again, like I said earlier, Western Michigan is trash. They got thrashed by Syracuse for at least 45 points. I think the game was still going on the last time I saw the ticker. What happens if we go 10-2 again or go 11-1 and we're averaging 20 points a game again, Andrew? We had another pick six today to add to that point total.
Yeah.
What actually happens?
I'm not real sure because do you care more about the 7 wins or the 25 points per game? I mean, if we're getting the wins and getting and that's ultimately the result that you want, right? Is to win the ball game. I don't know if Iowa's ever going to look pretty doing it, but on a day like today, again, you feel like Iowa, specifically the offense, left some points out there on the field. There was that play to Seth Anderson where if maybe Cade lofts it up a little more, or maybe just has a half second longer in pass protection because the pocket was collapsing a little bit. But if he maybe just has a half second longer, that's probably a 91-yard touchdown that puts Iowa up 27-3, and we don't even worry about this late game comeback. We don't even worry about it at all.
And honestly, were you concerned until the fourth quarter? Because I wasn't. Not after we got the first drive stop, the blocked field goal. I was not concerned the rest of the game until the fourth quarter.
I was concerned when ISU was driving, and then when I saw how they were managing the clock on that drive when they eventually scored a touchdown, and how they were approaching it with little to no urgency, taking up 7 minutes of game clock and not really putting pressure on Iowa. They got a touchdown on 4th and 9. And like you said, beat Deshaun Lee in a one-on-one. And that was the only time that Lee really got beat today.
Yeah.
In pass coverage. And I love it. That's our third best corner, who has played as a starter for 2 weeks. And other than that, hasn't really given up much of anything. Cooper DeJean isn't giving up anything either. And so your only hope passing against Iowa is in between the hashes. I was only a little bit concerned until that clock management. Once I saw that clock management, I kind of understood that, hey, Iowa's kind of got this in the bag because they're not really approaching this with the most urgency. Iowa had a 3rd-and-1 with right around 2 minutes remaining. They handed off to Caleb Johnson, and he gets shoestring tackled going to the outside. I was messaging you and begging you, and we're begging for it. I think we're going to see it at some point. I pray we do. Deacon Hill has a mountain of a man for a quarterback. He's like 6'3", 258 or something like that. It might be obvious if you put him in there in a situation like that, they're going to quarterback sneak it, and the defense might be able to load up. But we've seen that in the past where it's obvious and Iowa gets it anyways. He's 6'3". All he has to do is get the snap and reach the ball out, and he's probably going to fall forward. He's probably going to get you a yard in that situation, right? So I was begging for them to put Deacon Hill in just specifically for that.
We didn't give the ball to Hayden Large at all today either, so I wouldn't have been mad if he got a tote of the rock,
Not on the ground.
A la Monty Pottebaum,
Yeah.
So, give him the chance, or give the guy that could actually run up the gut all day long and Patterson the ball for 1 yard. Like I for some reason, Caleb Johnson did not look explosive today. He looked hesitant, especially in between the tackles, and then he looked slow getting outside the tackles too. So like Patterson was obviously the star of the game offensively, in my opinion. Mm-hmm. I don't know. Like it might be a running back by committee going forward, but the offensive line looked like trash in the run game again. But like you said, Iowa State might be top 10 defense. We don't know. We only have 2 games. We only have 2 metric points to go from this season, right? Utah State, okay, opening season, opening game. We did what we did because that's what we do on opening day. But then you go into Ames, you get the win. Like how mad can you really be? That's how I feel about it. I don't know.
Yeah, I thought run game actually looked better at points than last week. Not maybe to the standard that we're used to seeing, but it certainly looked better, especially in that first quarter. A lot of it was that Jazz Patterson run in that first quarter, but it was good run blocking that made that happen. You saw Colby pull over from his right guard spot and absolutely break that thing wide open. If he doesn't make that play, that run doesn't happen.
Yeah, 100%.
So you see some flashes of how things could get corrected in the run game. So it's not been up to the Iowa standard yet, but you can see how it could come together a little bit through 2 games. It's not. I don't think we're going to run for 300 yards on anybody. But I do think there's a couple of 200-yard days coming as a team in the future.
It might be next Saturday against Western Michigan, and actually, as a matter of fact, it should be because when you open up Big Ten play, wide out, Penn State, like you're going to have to be able to run the ball.
Yeah, and my question for you, and then I think we can call it a day. One last question here.
For sure.
Do you start Deacon Hill next week? Do you give Cade McNamara the week off, give him some rest? Or do you think he needs to play a quarter to get that keep that momentum?
I wish I was a doctor in the know, Andrew, honestly, because like we know very little about the injury, and we really know very little about college football injuries as is. And, other shows, KXNO, talk about it all the time, especially on the gambling shows like Miller and Condon. Like they need to start being more forefront about injuries if we're starting to bet on these college games, right? We need to know like what percent you are, like generally speaking. So with that being said, Deacon Hill should be fine to roll in there, go 28-3 and call it a day.
That's kind of
give Cade a week off going into Penn State, man. Like he needs to be as 100% as possible going into Happy Valley. So yeah, I want to see Deacon Hill next week.
Yeah, I totally agree. And maybe Labus is healthy enough to where you might see a little bit of combo of Deacon Hill and Labus. Totally fine with that. I think Labus showed in the bowl game last year that Iowa can win games with him at quarterback, and I feel the same way about Deacon Hill. Iowa can win games with him at quarterback as well. I don't know about if you want to go through a whole season with those 2 guys as your quarterbacks, but if it helps Cade McNamara be at a point where he's nearly 100% for Penn State, that's really what you need, because you need Cade at 100% if you're going to win that game in a wideout, and he's going to have to be at his absolute best if we have any hope of pulling that thing out. You and I both picked him to lose in the wideout preseason. Do you still feel like that's your prediction? Has anything changed for you in that regard?
Yeah, no, I take that back. No, nothing's changed. I think Penn State probably walks away with that win, opening Big Ten game. The wideout's tough, man, and this offensive line is not showing me anything to sustain freaking being able to run the ball. And you got to be able to run the ball to get Cade McNamara at his best. Play action, for God's sake. The play action game was the best part of the entire game plan today, first quarter. The wide open pass. I mean, and then the underneath calls to the tight ends was really good from Brian as well. But I guess my last question to you, Andrew, before we wrap this up is Is there a way to fix Brian Ferentz right now? Like, and what does that look like? You know what? It's easy to sit here as a fan or as a podcaster and be like, Brian Ferentz sucks, but why does he suck? And is it correctable? And we're now 5 seasons into this thing with Brian Ferentz, and 2 of the worst offensives in football in history so far. Like, I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah, so I'm gonna go back to something that Hayden Fry used to say, and this will tell you kind of what's wrong with Brian Ferentz. Hayden used to, and we heard Coach Mack say it. Hayden used to say, "Scratch where it itches."
Mm-hmm.
Right? Where was it itching for Iowa State? It was getting into those third and shorts and calling play action passes, because Iowa's tendency is to run into a stacked box on third and short.
Yep.
Wide open tight ends and wide receivers on play action passes on third and short. Trust your quarterback to do an experienced guy on a play action pass to do what he needs to do to get you the first down, because he's shown he was 9 for 12 on third down and fourth down last week.
Yep.
And he showed again that he's good on third and fourth down when you go for it in a passing situation. That is where it itches. And then also Jazz, like you talked about, Jazz Patterson up the middle, he seemed to just have the juice.
Oh, 100%.
And
Yeah.
you need to kind of go with him when he's hot like that, because he looked like he was ready to have a day and break this thing wide open. So if you do choose to run the ball today, it should have been Jazz, and then work play action off of that. It was too easy to tell that Iowa was going to run first down or throw first down if they didn't complete it, that a run was coming on second and long. I do not like the second and long run call. So that's really what's wrong with Brian Ferentz, is he just needs to get some sort of a sense of what is the defense not able to stop, and then you might as well just keep running it to death until they stop it.
Yeah.
And he just doesn't do that. He just keeps trying to go in his bag and try a whole bunch of different play calls. It's like he's just constantly searching for the right calls. It's like, you've had success with this, and this. Why not just run 3 to 4 of the same plays? I think it's almost they're calling too many different types of plays.
Trying to be too cute.
Yeah, find the 2 or 3 that have been ultimately successful. Wait until they stop it, and then throw something else once they eventually do.
Yeah.
So that's how I see it. But we'll be back for next week. Any last thoughts before we?
We're 2-0. We should run shop on Western Michigan Broncos next Saturday in Kinnick. So, like, I don't know if we're going to learn anything next Saturday, but we will do our preparation and do our due diligence on Western Michigan. Hopefully, we get on a beat writer or a commentator on their side. We haven't lined one up yet, but we will work hard to get one. And because, Behind Enemy Lines, I think is my favorite segment of the show. So,
Yeah, I'm with you there. So hopefully we'll have a Western Michigan writer or podcaster, whomever, on next week. But it feels good to be 2-0. We'll take it. We look forward to 3-0 next week. Thank you, as always, for listening. You can find us anywhere you get your podcasts: Apple, Spotify, YouTube, anywhere. Thank you for listening and watching. Appreciate you all, and have a great night. Go Hawks.
In heaven, there is no beer. Let's go.